Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry.
I'm Mary.
And welcome to the
Mary and Jerry podcast,
where we talk about
faith,
family,
marriage,
and bacon,
and of course, bacon,
and everything in between. That's right.
It's
no subject is off limits. No question should be unasked, and we are totally unscripted, as always.
We're never going to get this introduction right. Every week, it's a different introduction.
Well, but we get the basic facts.
We do get the basic facts.
They know where they're at. They know what they're in for. Sit down, put your seatbelt on, and here we go. Okay, so today
we're answering a question that was left for us.
That's right.
On our
You asked.
Bat phone hotline.
We answered.
And the question was quite simple.
The question is always simple, yet
the answer is quite complicated. The question was simply stated, how do you rebuild trust in a marriage when it's been broken between husband and wife?
Wow, that's a very light and fluffy question, isn't it?
Well,
we never get those.
We don't ever get light and fluffy questions.
No, we don't.
But I want this. I will be completely and totally honest.
Aren't we always?
Yes, we are. But I need to say that we are not marriage therapists. We are not doctors. We are not theologians.
So not theologians.
We are two broken people who pretty much did everything wrong.
Have a lot of experience. And how do we have experience?
As we have said on prior podcasts, experience comes from
wisdom,
which comes from
experience
making very poor decisions.
That's correct.
And we made a lot of them. And trust was broken in our marriage. First by you.
Well, before we get into
or by me, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the topic of what the trust was in relation to.
Why, yes, trust can take many different forms.
It can.
Let's start with your basic Webster's definition.
Okay, of trust?
Of trust, which is very interesting. So trust is either, right, a reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something, one in which confidence is placed. It's also, and I found this interesting, dependence on something future or contingent, hope. And then, of course, my other favorite is the reliance on future payment of property, such as,
like a trust.
A property interest held by one person for the, we get into the financial stuff. But I thought that second definition was very interesting. A dependence on something future or contingent. So we're going to talk about that. So trust is, first of all, assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something, one in which confidence is placed.
So, of course, we talk about trust of the Lord, right? That God is God, that He has promised us things, and that we can rely on His faithfulness and His assurance of His provision for us in our lives. We trust in Him. Jesus, I trust in you.
Right.
Remember from St. Faustina?
Yes.
So that's one trust. But today we're going to talk about, and we sort of talked about that in, I think, episode 9, I think it was, when we talked about walking on the water and placing our trust in the Lord.
Get out the boat.
Yes. But today we're going to talk about what we did, because that's really, I can't tell you what you should do. I can just simply tell you what our experience was in rebuilding the trust within our marriage.
Yeah. So, as I like to say in my business, here's the bottom line up front. There's no silver bullet. There's no quick fix, easy cure. Anytime our experience, right? Experience, we know where that comes from. Trust is broken. It is a very, it's a very long road back. There's no way around that. I think
it's very trust is very fragile. I mean, we think of it. We sort of, I think for us, I'll speak for myself. I was 18 when I met you, 20 when I married you. I just assumed I could trust. I did trust. You never gave me any reason not to trust you.
Right.
And so I just was, full speed ahead. Okay, let's go.
You were all in.
I was all in. And then I think did I break the trust first on the money issue, or did you break
Well,
it
so
on
here, okay, so
the
here's the deal.
intimacy
So there,
issue?
yeah, so there's more
So there's
than
two
there's
two
more
different
than
things
one
at
kind
play.
of trust.
Yeah.
At least that was
At work in our
at
marriage.
work in our marriage. Thank you. Yeah, get through that. So there was
I was unaware of your addiction to pornography.
right, and I was unaware of your tense proclivity to shop.
Yeah, shopping addiction. That's a good one. Yeah.
So
or food, but the mind go hand in hand.
So that's how
Yeah.
we. So we sort of let's see. How do I?
I would say within 3 years,
Right.
the house that we built, not that God built, because the house that God built still exists,
Right.
and we're living it.
Right.
But the house that we built collapsed.
Yeah.
You went on deployment, and I had way too much fun with the credit card, and was almost compulsive in how I was lonely, I was tired, I was isolated, all of these things, and I was trying to fill that bucket.
Right.
So, and then when you got home from deployment, I discovered other things about you.
Right.
When you were hurt and alone and tired, you were trying to fill a bucket.
Right.
And so then,
which is amazing. It's sort of the same thing.
it's the same.
Alone.
That's where
tired,
addiction comes
isolated.
from,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
It's called
halt. Hurt,
angry, lonely, tired,
tired.
and now they've added a B, bored,
Bored.
with the new generation. So, when that trust was broken, then I was the first one to go to therapy.
Right.
Okay. And when I went to therapy, I'll never forget what he said. He was like, we have to heal the inner child before we can heal the adult. And I just thought that was such I don't know, like you heard it on the Love Boat Therapist or something. It just didn't sit well with me. I didn't understand it in my youth and my inexperience.
You didn't understand the concept of bringing baggage into the marriage.
Right. I didn't understand that I had to go back
right.
to the little girl
right.
and where the point of trauma was in order to heal the adult that still exists today, right? That is here before you.
Right.
So, so how did we go about doing it? This is not hey, Mary and Jerry tell all. I wrote a book already, so you can read it. This is how can you, in your relationship, in your friendship, in whatever it is where the trust has been broken, how can you, if it's safe, like it's not an abusive situation, rebuild trust within that relationship? And so the first thing we did was you've got to put everything out in the open.
Now that's an interesting comment. Sorry, I'm processing a little slower today, because I'm sure the question that came in was relating to marriage, but trust can be broken in all kinds of relationships, right? Friendships,
between parent and child,
siblings, friendships. I mean, we've for better or for worse experienced
all of those,
right? Where we felt like a trust was betrayed. Such a
but it is
word.
It's betrayal. It's betrayal of the
betrayed,
heart.
or we trusted someone to do things a certain way or see things a certain way, and they did not. And of course that's not good. So
so the first thing, in any situation is you have to be honest with one another. You have to put everything out in the open. You have to, show your cards, as they say.
Yeah.
So how did we do that?
Well, loudly and usually with a great deal of emotion.
Yes. But we also did it within therapy, which was a lot more controlled.
Well, that was a good thing.
But that was after all of the emotion.
We're very emotional people.
We're passionate.
So the first thing is, I guess obviously you have to recognize you have a problem, but I think moreover, there has to be a recognition by the person who broke the trust as well.
Well, we're getting to that, but the first thing is you have to lay it all out there.
Correct.
You have to be honest.
Which
You
is
can't
hard.
hide anything. You can't be afraid of their response or their reaction. You've got to get it out. It's like a festering wound, right? You got to get all the pus and gross stuff out, clean the wound out in
Wow,
order
that's
for it
quite
to
the
heal.
visual imagery.
Well, that's what it felt like. It felt
Yeah.
like it was just this festering
You
thing.
had to lance that bad boy.
We did. The Holy Spirit lanced it just fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just fine. So we got to get it out. It's got to be out on the table. And both partners, right, need to be honest and submit, what it is, like what their feelings are and what they desire to work toward in the marriage and to rebuild the marriage. I know we've experienced in a lot of conversations with other couples when somebody, especially with pornography, when the husband or the wife, you got to remember this goes both ways, comes forward and says, I have this problem. So many spouses want to leave. They're like, I can never trust him again. And I am not saying you shouldn't leave. If it's an abusive and not safe situation, you follow what the church teaches and you follow what your gut tells you to do. I'm saying that it shouldn't be the first place you go to quit, to
Well,
anytime you want to jump in here, buddy.
Well, so the communication part is hard because, when the trust is broken, there is a lot of hurt.
Yes.
And it has been my experience being a, what is that thing called? Accountability partner for men who have dealt with an issue of pornography that, yes, their wife is like, I want to use the word, their wife says the trust is irrevocably broken.
Right.
Well, okay, then.
But see, that's part of putting it all out there. Then where are you going to go from there? If it's irrevocably broken,
Right.
you have no place to heal. There's no
Right.
possibility. You're getting rid of that word hope.
Yeah.
Right. You're getting rid of the possibility,
the extra definition
of trust. Right. To have hope. So when both of you come to the table and you're getting all of this out on the table and you're exposing all the lies and the secrecy and where the broken trust came from, then you have to have time to take a breath.
Right.
When that happened for us, we didn't immediately go into therapy. We talked for a long time, like for many months. We were talking back and forth. We were not intimate with one another. We just kept the lines of communication open, and it was very, very challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be blunt because I'm blunt. You know me. I speak my mind.
I'm very
bourbon
afraid.
Goes in, wisdom comes out, except there's no bourbon right now, which is very sad. Yeah, at that point, you have to make the decision of if it's really irrevocable, is that where you want to go? Because at that point, if there's no way to come back, if there's no way to reconcile, then where do you go? I mean, we had a very telling moment in 1996, where Mary very much said, hey, it's either me or the pornography, and you have to decide.
Well, we had one even before then, as far as my shopping was concerned.
Right.
In 1992.
So at that point, if you get to that point, then you have to make a decision. Are the two of you
willing to try?
And again, this is whether it's husband and wife, two friends, siblings, parents, and children. Whatever.
I'm not saying you don't feel the pain. I'm not saying you don't process the pain. Of course, we need to do all of that, and that's where good therapists are really very helpful. But you have to make a decision right at the beginning. Are you going to try?
Right.
And if
are you willing to do the very hard work to rebuild that relationship and that trust, because you're at the beginning of a journey,
right?
That is going to be, you're going to have ups and downs, fits and starts. You're going to fall off the horse,
which leads us to the second step.
Correct.
Okay. Which is, whoever broke the trust has got to apologize. And what does that look like? That doesn't look like, I'm so sorry. gee, I made a bad choice. That is like an authentic ask for forgiveness, and the silence when the other person might not be ready yet to forgive you. Like, you can ask, but it doesn't mean you're going to receive it, number one. And number two, that forgiveness comes with accountability. That ask and that apology comes with accountability, because the behavior has to change.
Right. That's very profound.
Thank you.
I know. And that was the hard
I've been
part.
to therapy.
And that was the hard part for me in particular, is I had to ask for forgiveness and accept that it might take her a long time to give it. Now, that didn't mean she didn't continue to talk to me, and we didn't continue to communicate, and we didn't, I'll be honest, at that time, keep up our lives, because we, of course, had Courtney and Jonathan to take care of. But
nobody knew this was going on. This was happening in the quiet of our
right.
home.
This was the interesting part. And I think you wrote about this in your book.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. We were still that family. We went to mass.
There are many people that didn't know until I wrote that book.
Yeah, we went to mass. We took care of our kids. We, went to family events. By all appearances, we were still the, married couple. But yes, it was in those private moments that you
saw the pain.
We saw the pain, and we had almost daily
conversation. There
conversations.
were hard conversations. Because when there was no accountability partner for you at that time.
There was nothing at that time.
We went to our parish priest, and he just stared at us like we had 7 heads. And I was in a Bible study at our parish with some women that I had known for a long time. And when I shared with one of the women I felt I could trust quietly, she shared with me that she had gone through the same thing in her early marriage. And I felt like I was seen for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was a huge help. And then as things continued on, we didn't deal with it necessarily well, but we didn't shove it under the sofa either. We kept it.
No, we
kept trying.
So for this particular, actually, even for shopping, right there, and pornography, and any addiction. Trust me when I say there's a whole lot more resources and help out now than there were 25 years ago.
But here's the thing: you have to take advantage of them, right?
Right,
and you have to be humble enough to.
Right.
Go to therapy.
We spent a lot of time struggling, just the two of us, because it was just the two of us. Now, as it turned out, that worked out okay, because we
found a couple, our best friends, when we met Christine and Marks.
Right.
In 2000. At that point, we had done a lot of internal work. We had done some marriage counseling. We had done individual counseling for short periods of time, because Jerry was still active duty in the Navy and deployed. And I had read any book that there was on marriage at that point. And so when we met them and we shared about our past and what we still struggled with and what we were still being kind of confronted with, we found support in a way we had not had until then.
Yeah, and
it was a safe place to land.
And oddly, we found out that the support does not always mean, let's see, what is it? It's sometimes a good swift kick in the butt.
Yes.
So sometimes when you take your issues to somebody else who has no emotional attachment to them,
that you trust, that you have a relationship with,
that you have relationship with, they will tell you
the truth,
unpleasant truths.
Yeah. And they will challenge you.
And they will challenge you to, sometimes take the plank out of your eye before you take the splinter out of someone else. Or to say, yes, you screwed up. You need to, mend your ways. If you're still feeling like you haven't gotten forgiveness, then you need to wait. You keep wait. You be Job.
And during this time, you have to make sure your partner feels heard and understood.
Yes.
And that was very challenging for you.
Yes.
You didn't understand my points of trauma because they were so different from yours. And it was kind of confounding to you. And I think sometimes it still is confounding.
You still
too.
confound me on at least a weekly basis. Yes.
But you heard me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you did your best to understand me. You still do to this day. Guys, just FYI, this healing is ongoing. I mean, there are many things we don't deal with anymore, like temptations we don't deal with anymore, but this healing of communication and trust within our marriage, it will always go on. I trust this man with my life. I know he would take a bullet for me, and I would do the same for him. But that has taken 25 of the 35 years we've been married.
Yeah.
To rebuild that and to know it and to live it. So it's not a short process, but it begins with communication. It begins with forgiveness. Now, there was a time when I loved him, but I hated his guts. I didn't like him. I know it's a contradiction, but I just didn't like you. I didn't want to be around you. I didn't want to be touched by you. I didn't want to be seen by you. And it wasn't until after I started my own healing and I went to confession on a regular basis and I got a spiritual director and that those walls began to break down. And
Right.
Things got much, much better.
Right.
But that conversation and that openness leads to, and that accountability leads to the change in the behaviors that led up to the broken trust.
Right. And that's the hard part for, let me see, those of you who have broken the trust is it's a daily thing, right?
Yep.
Again, there's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill.
It's a daily choice.
It's a daily choice, as we like to tell our, engaged couples, love is not an emotion, love is a choice, that you're going to work hard every day to rebuild, maintain, keep up that trust, which is also the hope, right? The trust is the hope. I love that definition.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that...
Yes, you've said that 3 times now. You're very excited about that definition.
I am. because
it gives you hope, because it means it's not all lost.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that we would want to convey is, don't give up hope. There's always...
Also, treat it like the covenant that it is.
Right.
Not the contract that the world wants it to be.
Right. There's, as long as, oh, wait, my favorite line from Lone Survivor, you're never out of the fight.
Amen.
Right? As long as you and whoever,
whatever this relationship
is,
or
if the two of you really want to fix it, then there is always the hope and the trust.
There's hope of Christ, yeah.
To fix it. Again, it's,
I mean, we went to Retroville, which is, we went to Marriage Encounter first, then Retroville is like a marriage encounter weekend for those that are contemplating divorce within the church. So, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. And our children were being affected by it, and our relationships outside our home were being affected by it, not because anybody knew what was happening, but just by our own attitudes and where we were as people and as a couple. So, and one of the things we had to do in therapy, which is kind of another part of this forgiveness process, is we had to look at places in our relationship where there was weakness.
And we had to talk about our feelings. All the big feels.
Well, the saying goes that a relationship can only be as healthy as the two people in it. A mother is only as happy as her unhappiest child,
Right.
So, I mean, this is how it is. We're humans and we have to try our best. And that's why we're huge advocates of therapy and spiritual direction and the sacraments, my gracious, the gift of the church and Mother Church and what she can provide for you. I mean, we've been prayed over. We've had,
prayed over.
Yeah, deliverance prayers done.
So for a long time we were both in small groups as well.
Right.
And that helped because
small prayer groups,
the one thing that I so another thing to convey is you're not alone out there, right? You might think that, oh my gosh, we're the only couple that's going through this. No, not really. I mean, I would love to say that every couple we know has a perfect marriage and we're like the outliers.
No.
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 In some way, in some measure, to some extent, every relationship at some point has to deal with broken trust, whether it's, a big thing like an addiction, or it's a little thing like, oh, I expected you to do X, but you didn't show up for me.
But that wasn't trust. That was expectation. The second one is expectation.
Ooh, what's the difference?
Well, I have.
Oh, I got you now.
I don't have a dictionary in front of me. The definition. Okay, so for me, this is not dictionary. This is not Merriam-Webster.
Oh, I know.
Can
just go ahead. I want to see where you go with this.
So if I have expectations of you, and I have not communicated those expectations to you, then how did you break my trust? Because I didn't communicate them to you.
So you would put breaking trust on an entirely different level then.
I would. I would say trust is more important and it's more intimate. And as we communicate with one another, then I can say to you, Jerry, this is what I expect from you as my husband and the father of my children.
Right.
And one of those expectations, and we talked about this early in our marriage, you wouldn't have an affair. You wouldn't be unfaithful. I don't think I said you wouldn't have an affair. You wouldn't be unfaithful to me, that you would provide for me and for the children.
Right.
We had agreed that I would
hold on.
That I would try and stay home and things like that.
So if I was had a gambling addiction, would that break the trust?
Yes.
Of your expectations? Okay.
Because it would break the provision.
Okay. Just checking.
I have a food addiction. So that broke the trust. I think the shopping addiction was more harmful to our marriage than my personal addiction to food.
Yeah. Because
I've worked through that one for a long freaking time. And I am comfortable. Somebody asked me, Mary, are you comfortable in the skin you wear? Are you comfortable where you are? It depends on the day. But yes, I am. I know who I am. I know who God made me to be. I hope that I'm doing what he's asking of me. Right. I'm loving the man that he gave me as gift and cherishing him in a way that we didn't in our early years because we understand covenant. And I think we were living in contract in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a pretty fair assessment. I'd roll with that.
You'd roll with that?
I'd roll with that.
So broken expectations, especially if they're uncommunicated, that's the key. Now, if I've communicated to you
that you wanted me to take the trash out and I didn't.
Right, and you didn't, then that's not a broken trust. That's just you're being stupid and annoying. But
wow, okay. Just want to put
that's being irresponsible. That's not necessarily being untrustworthy. Untrustworthiness comes from when you say something, you promise something, but your actions do the opposite thing.
Okay.
That's broken trust. Okay. So I think you're getting.
Am I splitting hairs?
I think you are. You don't have any hairs on your head to split, so stop.
Wow. Okay. Well.
No, I think I
just want to be sure that when
this is unscripted. Wow, is this unscripted?
Well, but
this is why I never want to, for anyone who is listening to this very unscripted, uncharted water podcast.
Right.
I never ever want to lead anyone away from Christ. I never want to say something to someone that would make them want to leave their spouse because Mary and Jerry said something, or speak to their spouse in a certain way, or whatever relationship is broken. I would always want to err on the side of positivity, on the side of truth that the church teaches, on the side of righteousness.
Well, that's why
go to therapy and get a spiritual director. Because this is just our experience. It's what we did.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here, because we are totally unscripted.
Are we communicating well, Jerry?
Trust is a very sort of specific thing.
Yes.
That's like a really BFD.
Yes.
As opposed to just, not meeting expectations. I think that's an important difference because, we may not meet our spouse's expectations
Well, we're human. We're never going to meet them all the time.
all the time.
It's
Okay.
I'm not the Blessed Mother. I was born with original sin.
Right. I mean, did you ever think about that for a second? Like St. Joseph, boy, he got a raw deal. Anything that went wrong, he lived with the Son of God and the Mother of God. So guess who got in trouble? Seriously.
Joseph.
It's a good thing he was like a saint too.
It's a good thing he's the terror of demons. My favorite title of his.
Yeah. So
I think of you that way. Sometimes you're the terror of demons. That's another thing.
Can I get that on a t-shirt?
That's the power of a spouse, y'all. Like, my husband has authority over me. And you might not agree with that scripture or
I'm
whatever.
waiting to see where this goes.
But he has authority over me. And so when we come to this place of submission, we've talked about this before, under his mission. And I go against that mission, which is what addiction sometimes leads to, go against the mission. Then, when he prays for me, when he prays over me, that is him calling upon the headship he has, the authority he has in this home. And so, you should be praying for your spouse every single day. You should be praying not only for them, but you should be praying with them. That was one of the weaknesses in our marriage.
Yes.
Was that neither one of us was praying for the other and neither one of us was praying with the other.
Right.
We didn't do that in our early married life.
That's right.
And now,
well, to be fair, I wasn't Catholic back then too.
This is very true.
Just
but
I'm
just talking general Christianity.
Right. Well, that's true too.
If you're a Christian, you should be praying every day. And if you're a married Christian, you should be praying for your spouse every day and for your children or your future children.
Yep. It is true.
So when the trust was broken for us, it was on very intimate levels. It was on the provision level and it was on the, our sexual intimacy.
That's right.
And those were really hard ones to rebuild. And there are moments where we look at one another and we fall into old habits or we will speak to one another in a certain tone and it'll be like, whoa, wait a minute. We've come beyond that. What's going on? There might be something that's unsettled with one of us that we haven't really shared with the other that we need to talk about and bring to the light.
That's right. Bring it to the light. So you would say
that I love you.
Thank you.
And you would say
I love you more.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't know if this has been particularly useful to anyone, but you asked. And I think the biggest thing that we've learned is
forgiveness is a miracle.
Forgiveness is a miracle. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is what we tell people.
Okay, stop with the what we tell people. Just what did we do?
In the midst of everything, when things are bad and you're really torqued off at your spouse and you're like, who the hell are you? Why are you here? Blah, blah. Go back to the beginning. Go back to the beginning. Remember, try to remember why you were attracted to them in the first place, right? What was it that drew you together? Just take a minute, take a breath.
Okay, but at the same time, when trust is broken, that becomes very challenging to do.
I know.
So I want to acknowledge that is not an easy thing to do.
Well, of course it's not easy to do. It is very hard. That's why, we have the rules of Fight Club. That's another podcast, I think. Or did we do that?
Did we do that already? I don't even
remember.
know.
Okay. It's not good to be getting old. Yes, none of this is easy. And sometimes, I know we have certainly been in the situation where there had just been so emotional that I think a couple of times we just walked out of the room.
That would usually be me walking out of the room.
Before we just totally lost our ish, as you like to say. And you just have to
you have to separate yourself for a moment.
Separate yourself and collect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then
come back together and talk about it
and talk about it. And at that point, typically you're ready to talk because you've already expended all your emotional energy and you have no more big feels.
Oh, that is never the case for me, my love.
Oh, I know.
I have big feels every day of my life.
I know. 24/7,
Yes.
365. I
And
got it.
and that was one of the reasons why you married me.
Yeah, but boy, I didn't know how much that rheostat could go up and down on the big feels. Flame your face off. I love you. Would you like muffins? Flame your face off. I love you. Would you like muffins?
And I didn't know how deep your feelings went. Like that river runs deep, but when push comes to shove and the pressure canner goes off, it's like hide.
Katie, bar the door.
It's just hide. You don't want to be anywhere around you. I can think of four times. 1, 2. Yeah, 4 times in our married life of 35 years where you have lost yourself in anger. 4 times. I'm 4 times a day. No,
Yes.
not really 4 times a day anymore. I used to be. I think I've
Okay,
hope
to be
that I have-
fair,
I have-
you're 4 times a day. 3 of those are menopause. One of those is you're actually mad at me. The other 3, you're just like, I'm hot. Turn up the air conditioning. You're the only woman I know that could walk into a deep freeze and go, it's hot in here. Like, seriously. So I have learned, that when you're like, hot, you're going to kill me and rip my face off. You're either hot or hungry.
I am like a small child.
You just need a snack and some nap time.
Yes. I need some alone time in the deep freeze.
So what does this all mean at the end of the day?
Oh my goodness. It means don't quit on each other.
Don't quit on each other.
At least now, is every marriage going to work? I can't say yes. My hope and my prayer is yes. We can forgive each other and we can walk on. But in that forgiving, what is happening is the behavior is changing, right? If the behavior doesn't change, then it just becomes,
you're going to be right back where you started.
And it just becomes really
a vicious cycle.
A vicious cycle of hurt and pain, and nobody wants to be in that forever. It becomes that's where I would insert the word abuse. That's where it becomes abusive. So, I just want to encourage anyone listening to this. If you're in a season where something has happened, either within your marriage or within a friendship or with a parent or with a child, to first of all, pray for them, even if you cannot abide to speak their name. God knows who they are. Pray for them. Make sure you're availing yourself of the sacraments of the church. Get yourself into therapy if that's something that you can afford to do at these days. If you're Catholic, find yourself a spiritual director. If you're Christian, find yourself a good mentor. Surround yourself with good people who will walk with you. I think that has been really, to our marriage, the biggest blessing in our marriage.
That's right, because you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You can't really do it by yourselves.
You can't. And you have God always, first and foremost, go to God. But we had our prayer group. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 couples walking with us, and one very, very intimately, but others that were supportive. And we just kept coming back to the table.
Right. And sometimes that's the best you can do is you're never out of the fight.
Never out of the fight.
Okay,
never
so
out of the
first
fight.
of all,
Why do you, people don't know what just happened there.
You were resting your leg on my leg and
And you're old?
Yes. Okay.
And this is now on a podcast permanently and forever.
That's right.
Wow.
I know.
It's the real us.
But guess what? It's time for...
What time is it, Jer?
It's time for the newlywed game.
Not so newlywed game. Get it right, buddy.
Okay, so let's see. What's our categories here? Get to know you. Something. Let's go to something different. After that particular topic, we need something different. All right, we already did that one.
You can't pull them from the back.
We did that one last time.
I don't know why y'all are still listening.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I was ever given was by the priest that married us, who turned out to be not such a great guy, but his advice was great. Fight. When you fight with your spouse, fight naked. It's a very very short fight.
Wow, that's so
That was the
profound.
best piece of marital advice that I've ever been given.
Wow, that's very profound.
We have to do, and Maggie has now made her appearance on YouTube.
Hi. Hi.
Okay, what's the word?
Wait.
Yeah, I guess that's the best piece of advice I've ever been given.
Okay.
And never go to bed angry, but I do that sometimes, so that's not really.
Right.
Oh, Maggie wanted some attention.
Okay. Yes.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Well, we'll skip that part.
No.
Well, we could say Jerry's rules, but we can't.
No,
say
we
those
cannot.
On the
Those will
podcast.
never be in the public sphere.
Those
And
aren't
no,
on-
you can text us and call us all you want.
Those-
That is a personal conversation. That is not going on a G-rated podcast.
That's Jerry's rules. Best piece of advice. I think from a marriage point of view, I'd say don't go to bed.
I mean, let's put it this way: the
don't
fight
go to
naked,
bed. Don't go to bed angry.
and the fight naked thing is not really realistic.
No.
Okay, but shall I share my dad's piece of advice?
Yes.
That's a great one.
Yes.
Never quit, never give up, never lose your faith, because it's the one reason you walk this earth. God chose such a time as this for you. So what are you going to do with it?
That's right.
William Joseph Green Jr.
All right, one more.
Wait, what's your favorite piece of advice?
I
Not
said-
Jerry's rules.
No, I said never go to bed angry, which has on occasion driven you crazy
Oh, I hate it.
because you're
Because
like,
I just want. I'm half Irish. I have to hold a grudge, and you will not
wow.
allow it.
No, because I know you're holding a grudge and I know you'll wake up in the morning after your deep subconscious has come up with 14 responses to what I said the night before. And then you will get out your verbal filleting knife and just like Zorro. So there have been nights that I laid there in bed staring at you as you pretended to go to sleep, and I just stared at you, and you're like, I'm not. Well, you can't see this on the podcast. You just lay there with your eyes closed. I'm asleep. I don't see you. I'm not talking to you. And I'm like, yes, you are. You're awake, because I could tell, because I'm staring at you, and I'm going to stare at you until you wake up and talk to me. I am not talking to you. I am mad at you.
We sound like 12-year-olds.
Oh, but have we always, even if it was 3:00 in the morning?
Yes,
worked
we have
it
always
out?
worked it out. Let's put it this way: we have worked it out to the point where we go to sleep.
Okay,
There might have been further negotiation, conversation,
but see, that's
therapy
negotiation.
required.
That is like arms control. The Russians. Okay, I will give you this missile. You will give me that missile.
But I have all the missiles.
You said this
Always.
was a G-rated podcast, so I'm not even going to answer that one because you said G-rated podcast.
That is not what I meant at all.
But I'm bumped.
Oh my God.
Second question. Now, this is a good one.
We're going to get kicked out of podcast land.
Not likely. What book, besides the Bible, you can't say that, that's cheating.
Okay.
What book has had the greatest impact on your life?
Oh, wow. What book has had the greatest
Oh, that's
impact
a
on my
good
life?
one.
I think He Leadeth Me.
What is that?
It's written by a priest who was in the Gulag. And he wrote about his experiences of being a prisoner in Russia.
Wow.
Zizek, Father Zizek, I think is his name.
Wow, that's very profound.
I've read that book. I 3 times, I think.
Wow. That's,
It's like highlighted, and it's just.
that is very profound.
I mean, this man had everything taken away from him, everything,
Hmm.
and yet he still could praise the Lord. It was really good. I
yeah.
think another one is the one by Anne Limburg. By the Sea. No. It's got a blue cover with seashells on it. I don't remember the title. I just read it again this summer. That was very profound
Wow.
as well.
What would I say?
You would say Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Wow, I'd have to think about that for a second. Probably the most. I'll tell you the most profound book is the Reader's Digest Picture History of World War II.
World War II.
So that was the very first book that my big sister got me for Christmas. It was 1975. I remember because I wrote my name in it, Jerry Lenaburg, Christmas 1975.
What grade were you in? 5th grade?
I would have been 11. No, 10. I would not have turned 11 yet. I would have been 10 years old. And that was my first big history book that started me on the road to it being the grouchy historian.
Okay.
So
from your childhood.
yeah, I think so.
Oh, wow. From my childhood, I don't.
Well,
I mean, I love the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, I mean, Anne of Green Gables, things like that. I love those books. But
yeah.
no, the one that I go back to, is He Leadeth Me.
Wow. Okay. Very profound. Okay. So here we go.
Occasionally we are profound.
At the end of another podcast.
I know. So what do we need to tell the people, Jerry? Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to fail podcast school.
We did. We failed podcast school.
We have a Patreon page, my friends, and we would love for you to prayerfully consider your financial support for this podcast. The Patreon link will be in the show notes.
Wow, this is such
podcast. We'd like you to hit that subscribe.
This is such a serious podcast that I completely brained up everything. Like, okay, how are we going to handle this topic?
Okay.
All right, first of all,
hold on to subscribe to the YouTube channel or to wherever you listen to podcasts. Please do leave comments. We do read them. We read all of them. We respond as best we can.
Keep those cards and letters coming, folks.
Yes. And if you want to ask us a question or if you would like to leave a comment, we got a couple of comments recently that people wanted a longer format. They just really enjoyed the banter between the two of us and they wanted a longer format. So we're looking
well, when
at
we
that.
actually get our act together and start figuring out how we want to line up some guests.
Yeah, we might have to interview people.
We might go to a definite long format because the guests we're thinking about, we could go for a while.
There's also others that have been encouraging us because we constantly say we don't know what we're doing and we don't and we don't, as you can see. But we appreciate your encouragement. Thank you so much. But yeah, the Patreon would be so helpful.
And what's that phone number,
baby? The phone number is 571-354-0351.
Or follow us on
Instagram.
The Jerry and Mary podcast on Instagram.
And you can direct message us there as well as our individual Instagrams.
Bum.
That was really good.
I know. So you were pretty good.
Right.
We are now, are we done?
Oh my gosh.
I am somewhat emotionally.
I don't know, Jer.
I am somewhat emotionally drained. I mean, that was a very big.
Well, you're the one that said, "Okay, it's time to talk about that subject. How do you rebuild a marriage after trust has been broken?"
That's what.
And I'm like, I don't think we're ready to talk about this subject. And you're like, but Mary, we've been living this.
I said, when are you ever prepared for this?
Me?
No, I meant like the trust thing.
Oh yeah, no. When are you ever prepared for it to be broken? Never.
Right.
Okay. I hope it was useful to you, my
or as
friends.
May
God correct anything we said that was wrong.
One of my favorite movie characters, Gunny Highway: improvise, overcome, adapt. Surrender is not in our creed.
Correct.
It's one of my favorite
Just
movies
don't
of
quit.
all time.
All right, friends. Okay. Until next time.
All right.